From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, ACC Kickoff preview, sort of, and talking recruiting with Michael Langston as the Noles are trying to land two elite defensive backs here this weekend. Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. CPTallybar.com is the website, 2475 Appalachia Parkway, physical address. Daily lunch specials from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. On Mondays, you know what's going on, folks. Half-pound Black Angus burger. You get a side dish of your choice, straight fries, curly fries, onion rings, potato salad, broccoli, side salad, tater tots, or freshly cooked potato chips. All that, one of those choices, and that delicious half-pound Black Angus burger for only $8.99 today, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Tomorrow is trivia night over at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Don't miss out. Corey, how long has it been since you've, let the people know your intelligence at trivia night over at Corner Pocket?
It's been a minute, Aslan. I'd say I'd wager it's been at least a month.
Ooh.
It's been a busy summer. I'm not proud of it. I've still made my way up to Corner Pocket. In fact, Sunday night I had dinner at Corner Pocket. As soon as I got back into town, Aslan, had dinner. Or at least that's my plan. We can be transparent. I have not left my house in Georgia yet. But when I get – that should tell you everything you need to know about CP. The first thing I do when I'm in town, I'm meeting Stephanie at Corner Pocket for dinner. So there you go.
Bam. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Why don't you hit the thumbs up, leave a 5-star rating and review, subscribe to the YouTube channel as well as Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. Corey, we got ACC Kickoff this week, so this is like the last respite, if you will. Not that we needed a respite. We're fine. We're healthy young men. We're ready to cover this team. You've posted some stuff over on Warchant.com with burning questions about FSU as we head into ACC Kickoff. You're going to stay back. It doesn't make sense to have everybody in Charlotte. You're going to be just thrown all the sound bites and all the sound and interviews, and you're going to craft stories and do your thing. What are you going to miss not being there? I know you're fine not going, but is there anything you think being in person will help Ira, myself, Tom, Jeff Capture, Matt as well, Matt Lassiere, our recruiting writer, that maybe you won't be able to see that you want to know about this team as they make it through the preseason?
No.
All right.
Not
cool.
really. In fact, I was just thinking about this. I haven't been to one since 19. So 2020, obviously there wasn't one, or it was virtual. I can't remember. I don't even think they had one.
I don't think so. Yeah.
2021 was not virtual, but I was on a beach trip, and so could not go. And I had scheduled my beach trip thinking that they wouldn't have one. I want people to understand that. I want people to know that I thought they wouldn't have one because the SEC had not had one. I'm like, well, the ACC's not going to – they're not going to – because COVID was still around, and I didn't think they'd have a gathering in a hotel for people to come from all out of state. So I went ahead and booked a beach trip with some friends, beach house and everything, and I was not going to miss out on that for one day of Norvell and Mackenzie Milton. So didn't do it on 2021, and then I don't quite remember what happened last year, but it all works out, right?
Yeah.
Like it's cool that I'm home. I'm probably the fastest writer on the staff, so I get the quotes real quick. I can craft something quicker, get it up quicker, and you guys are free to more talk and mingle. Not mingle because that implies you're not doing work. Associate with other people, talk to other people while I'm putting up the stories on the website. So it all works out.
All right, then. What are the three burning questions about Florida State heading into ACC Media Days, Corey?
Well, I'm not gonna give away the cow when you have the milk, whatever that saying is. But you go to our website to see all three. But mainly they center around, and what I wrote about it late last week too, while you were off in Ireland. Got to hear some stories about that, by the way.
Yeah.
Because you're more clear-eyed than maybe you were when we did our 20-minute hit last week at some point. Me too, by the way. So we can take a look back now and see how that trip went. But mainly if Florida State is going to be picked to win the preseason, that's one of them. And I don't think they will be.
Okay.
I just think, and rightly, Clemson beat Florida State last year. Clemson's still good. And I would just think most media members, when they're looking at this upstart, which is a crazy phrase, crazy word to use for Florida State, but this team that's on the up and up, on the come up, are we going to pick them to actually knock off Clemson? Clemson's won 7 out of 8 of these things. The only one they didn't win was COVID. So it's like, man, I still think if I'm an objective media member in North Carolina, I'm probably leaning towards Clemson until somebody beats them.
All right. I think, Ira and Jeff and I think talked about that when we were in Ireland. At least Ira still seems to think that Clemson has a cachet to be the odds-on favorite. I get it. You got to beat the team to beat the man to be the man and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I guess maybe just not fair to use one season as the downfall of that program. But there definitely were a lot of, sort of crack lines, fault lines starting to show in the foundation that he's developed there. Now, will a new offensive coordinator and Cade Club. I'm going to say Cade Klubnik a bunch of times because I apparently have dyslexia. But Cade Klubnik, is that enough to fix what they've had going wrong? Because man, it was like 2 seasons of bad offense, and you can I guess maybe point all that to DJ Uiagalelei, but it was like 2 years of this offense kind of staggering. But on the whole, they really took a step back. And some people commented on your thread. One person in particular, fly for Megalops. Not sure what that means, everybody, but, it's July. We have to find content, so I'm going to read a post. But basically, he was saying that he thinks the Riders are so lazy, not us, but by and large, that they're just going to be like, whatever, man. Drake May, preseason player of the year. Clemson's going to win it, and I don't know, we'll take 2 or 3 Florida State guys on the preseason team just as like a token kind of gesture. Maybe that's fair. Maybe it's unfair. I just feel like if you look at this pretty objectively, Florida State seemingly has a much better path to winning this conference, it feels like. Because the schedule and what they have returning, obviously.
Yeah, 100%. But, I think a media member would say, okay, well, they got to play at Clemson, and they're going to remember the game from last year. And Clemson theoretically should have a better quarterback than they did last year. And they put up 34 in Doak. And we're up by 20 points in the fourth quarter. So, again, I think it was about an 8 or 9 minute stretch where Clemson outplayed Florida State. Other than that, they were even. But, yes, if you're not a Florida State media member or a Clemson media member, and you're just looking at recent history, you got to prove it. Just the same thing with Jordan Travis, man. If you're guessing who the ACC preseason player of the year is going to be, I can go ahead and tell you it probably isn't. It's not going to be Jordan Travis. North Carolina has a quarterback that's thought of as a better pro prospect who put up better stats last year, and it's in North Carolina. Most of the media members at this thing are North Carolina, so I would not be surprised in the least. I would be stunned, actually, if Jordan Travis is the ACC preseason player of the year. I don't necessarily mean that it's a lazy vote, but it's also, I would say this. I think the people that are tasked with voting for postseason honors, for the most part, do take that that job very seriously. Postseason, like earned honors. This is preseason, and you're letting everybody vote. It's not a select members of the media. It's everybody that's there, right?
Correct.
So it's people that might not have. Did you see the SEC voting this year?
Well, it didn't strike me as, I think, Georgia, Tennessee.
Vanderbilt got 8 first-place votes. Vanderbilt to win the SEC. So that's clearly done by people that don't take it seriously.
Clearly, yeah.
Vanderbilt's never done it. It would be the miracle on ice times 1,000 if that happened. It's not going to happen, and they did it as a joke because it's a preseason voting that in the end doesn't mean a whole lot. So with that thought process, no, I do think there's some laziness there, but it's also July, and it's football is still six weeks away, so you can forgive voting members if they're not completely dialed into the rosters of all these teams. Now they do get some guidelines, right? I haven't been there in 4 years, Aslan. On the sheets, do they have nominees?
I don't recollect them doing that. Maybe.
So how do you do O-line?
Well, you look at who's there. You're like, all right, has anybody brought an offensive lineman to this event? I'll put him on there because they obviously think highly of him. By the way, our friends over at MyBookie, they've got Jordan Travis at plus 1275 to win the Heisman. Drake May plus 1550.
Yeah.
So,
but I would say this: to win the Heisman, you have to be on a national brand, playing big games on a great team. To win the ACC Player of the Year, you don't. You number one, playing for a North Carolina school helps. And then also, if you're putting up huge numbers and your team says win 8 games and you average 380 yards passing a game, you can very much win that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I do think Jordan Travis's chances of winning the Heisman are better than Drake May's because he's on a better team and he'll play more high-profile games. But I don't know that I'd say his chances of winning the ACC Player of the Year are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I follow. I got you.
A little bit anyway. So especially preseason, like Drake May's not going to get any preseason Heisman hype because nobody expects his team to be very good. Jordan Travis is kind of he's a cool story. He's dynamic. He's a little more. He has more of a wow factor with his athletic ability than Drake May, and also he's going to play in bigger games, so that gives him a better chance to win the Heisman. Plus, North Carolina's never won a Heisman, and Florida State has.
No love for Lawrence Taylor, apparently.
Well, he didn't win the Heisman.
I know, so I'm saying no love for Lawrence Taylor.
I wonder who won it that year. If maybe he should have won it.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess it wouldn't have been Bo's year. It might have been like Marcus Allen's year is when Lawrence Taylor had a chance.
So ACC Kickoff is a 3-day event now.
Yeah,
we'll be heading
how about
up.
that?
We'll be heading up to Charlotte as you're listening to this, folks, or some of you listening to this. We'll get players from Georgia Tech and Syracuse, and they even threw us a cane. I didn't even realize that. I'm looking at the schedule right now. So we'll get Matt Lee, apparently one of the offensive linemen for Miami. We'll get Dino Babers. We haven't spoken to Coach Babers since 2018. Corey, that's going to be exciting. But
Why do you think they do that?
Why or how?
Why? Why do they give us? Why is it like here's some medicine for letting us for us letting you be on Radio Row? Here's what you have to do.
Well, when you apply for Radio Row, they ask you what teams you want. They ask you to prioritize like 3 teams, and you prioritize them. 1, 2, 3 on a list. So day 1, it's Georgia Tech, Louisville, Miami, and Syracuse. So I put Miami 1. I put Syracuse 2 because they're both on the schedule this year. Georgia Tech,
Right.
Louisville not on the schedule.
Right.
But I'm like, I don't know. I guess we'll take Georgia Tech just to talk to them about the Ireland game. They give us LaMiles Brooks. I don't even know what his classification is right now. I'll do some research on the way up there. I promise everybody I'll be educated. So he might not even be playing in the game next year. So they gave us a player from Georgia Tech. They gave us the tight end from Syracuse, Oronde Gadsden, Dino, and then the offensive lineman from Miami. I would have rather had Mario than Dino, but I guess maybe Mario's like I don't want to be on the hot seat with the Hodges.
I guess,
and Clark.
but I wonder. It kind of strikes me a little bit like they used to have the Packer and Durham show, where it's like we're going to talk about lacrosse for 20 minutes. Now we're going to talk to the lacrosse head coach at UNC. Now the NC State men's tennis coach. Now the Virginia dodgeball coach. They do all this nonsense where our listeners don't care about that. Why? I just don't understand what the point is of, hey, we're going to deem you worthy to be on Radio Row, but now you have to talk with 8 minutes to this tight end that does not want to be here and does not know you and lives 1,500 miles away. But talk to him for 8 minutes, and then we'll let you talk to somebody that you actually care to talk about. What is the point of it? Let us just do our job. Anyway, sorry, I'm not there. So I'm not even going to be there. So it's fine. It's fine. It just doesn't make it just doesn't make a ton of sense.
I mean, I guess I could have told them I don't want anybody, and they might have not given me anybody on day 1.
Or they might not have let you been on Radio Row.
Or that.
But the point of that is, we're on Radio Row for Florida State, for Miami, and for Clemson. Mainly Florida State and Miami. We'd love to talk to those guys. So let us do it. We don't care to talk to the Syracuse tight end.
Day 2, Wednesday, is Florida State, Pitt, Virginia, and Virginia Tech. We'll have Coach Norvell on the show, as well as Jared, but we didn't get Kalen or Jordan.
Okay.
But we got a player from Duke and a player from Pitt, so that's awesome.
To my point.
We'll reach out to the folks at FSU. I think no disrespect, but we'll try to get Kalen on the show. I don't know if we need to get Jordan on the show. We hunted him down in Louisiana. He might need some time away from me.
Well, and I will say this, and really, I sound more mad than I am. It's just, and I can't speak intelligently how other media days are. Maybe the 680 The Fan in Atlanta, when they go to SEC media days, has to talk to the kicker from Vanderbilt. I don't know. It's just part of the job of being on Radio Row, to humor it's not our fault that Syracuse doesn't have any media members that want to talk football and drive down to. Well, I can understand that. Fly down to North Carolina for this, but anyway. In our defense, what helps us is that we get so much access anyway. You know what I mean? Like starting August, whatever, early August, we're going to be at practice every day, and we're going to be able to talk to pretty much whoever we want. So it's not that big a deal. You know what I mean? Not like it might have been, say, 5 or 6 years ago when we got nobody. During the August, we get the same 5 players. Now we get anybody we want. We have so much access. So I'm really just complaining to complain. I promise I'm not upset at you, ACC. I love you.
Phoenix Knoll replied to your thread that was promoting your story about the 3 burning questions. I like the last question, Corey. Here's another one for you. Do you think FSU will have the most first-team preseason all-ACC players?
Yeah, probably. Because I do think there are some automatics there. The funny part is I think we all agree Jordan Travis is one of the best players in the country, and in my opinion, the most important player on this football team. Hey, we're spoiling the Warchant top 40, everyone. But he will. I do not think he'll be on the preseason All-ACC team. I think it'll be the quarterback from North Carolina, and I'm not even arguing with that. The kid had a great year. He's supposedly a top 5 pick, and all the I would guess. What would you say, Aslan? 85% of the media members at this thing are from the state of North Carolina.
Probably, well, maybe 75, but yeah, it's an overwhelming majority.
Because most schools aren't going to sit like Florida State's beat. There will be 8 or 10 of us there. More probably,
yeah.
When you include all the outlets that cover Florida State, maybe 12 to 15. But Virginia will have 3, Syracuse will have 1, maybe. Boston College will have -3. They're going to try to talk people into not going. That's how so little they care about football. So that being said, the most of the people there are people that can drive to Charlotte for the day, do their work, and then go back either do a broadcast that night or write a story, whatever it is. Most people, or a good portion of people, are in local. It's an easy drive for them. So that's why I think it's like, well, you might be right. Maybe it's 75, but it's the majority of the voters, the majority of the media there are North Carolina media, because that's where it is and it's easiest to get to. And if we happen to have ACC media days in Jacksonville one year, most of the people at that would be from Florida outlets. So it just so happens that every year is in North Carolina. So anyway, I do think Jared Verse is an automatic. I think who else? Johnny Wilson is an automatic, and I think Trey Benson is an automatic. After that, who do you think? Oh, and I also think Fentrell Cypress is going to be an automatic. He's a returning All-ACC first-team player. I think people doing this preseason list look at the All-ACC postseason from last year and then see how many of those guys are returning. So those 4, I think, are automatics going to be it. And then I think there will be a 5th. I just don't know who it will be. Like in the story I mentioned, maybe Renardo Green, maybe Fabian Lovett, one of the offensive linemen, maybe Keon Coleman, though I doubt it because people would have to know it.
Jaheim Bell's somebody they said possibly. He obviously
Jaheim Bell, yeah, because he did have those 2 huge catches against Carolina in the bowl game. And so the North Carolina media will remember that name, and if they look him up at all, they'll be like, oh, yeah, it's a big deal. Maybe Byers, but I do think one of the offensive linemen or Jaheim Bell or Fabian Lovett will be that fifth person. But I can't see them getting maybe 6 at the most, but I think 5 is the absolute ceiling.
VitaminEnergy.com, shake it and take it, and use the promo code WarChampBOGO, that's WarChamp, BOGO, when you place your order over at VitaminEnergy.com to get one item of equal or lesser value for absolutely free. How do you survive 9 hours in a metal tube, sleep-deprived, pretty much working 18 hours a day, and feel okay and not get sick and be able to film everything and knock it out? Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com and Vitamin Energy Immune Plus Support, Corey. It gave me my energy, which is part of the Vitamin Energy pitch. It also gave me the vitamins, the vitamin C, to keep my immune system strong. Not going to lie, man, I've got the immune system of like a toddler. So if I don't get sleep and I'm up late and I'm working a lot and I'm around a whole bunch of people and I'm breathing in all the air and all their oxygen, I usually get a little bit sick. I've been fine, Corey. Hope my voice sounds fine, too, so I don't ruin the sales pitch for our guys at VitaminEnergy.com. But I feel great, and they're the reason why. Even, like I said, Jeff had to get a little bit on it, too, because there were some long days out there in Dublin. But couldn't do without my friends at Vitamin Energy. Try it, everybody. Shake it and take it. Try it. You'll like it. Again, VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code is WordChant. BOGO. B-O-G-O. Last thing on kickoff here, Corey.
Hey, I just looked it up real quick. So Lawrence Taylor's last season at Carolina was 1980. He won he was the consensus ACC Defensive Player of the Year. He had 16 sacks, but he did not finish in the top 10 in Heisman voting. George Rogers from South Carolina won it. Duluth, Georgia, stand up. Hugh Green from Pitt finished second, which until Charles Woodson was the highest ever finish for a defensive player in the Heisman Trophy voting.
Did we shut him down when we played Pitt, Hugh Green, or did he eat?
No, I mean, Florida State scored 36 points in 1980, so they must have done pretty well with them. And they had, I mean, like I wrote a story about that, and we did a war chat about it, but they had 5 Hall of Famers on that Pitt team. Just nuts. But no, I'm sure he was not easy to block, but he did not take over the game. And but yeah, he finished second. And Herschel finished third, which was crazy. Herschel should have won it, but they didn't give it to freshmen back then.
Yeah, I'll look up, see if I can find the PFF numbers on Hugh Green.
Hugh Green, yeah, do that.
State. Last thing on kickoff, Corey, do you think whether maybe they max out at 3 all-ACC first-teamers, Florida State, maybe 4, do you think the transfers won't properly be valued by the voters out there in Charlotte, and that might be the biggest disconnect between what Florida State is perceived as and what they probably will be this season? Because you mentioned Keon Coleman, I kind of like instantly shot you down because I'm like, yeah, I mean, he's new to the conference. He didn't go through spring practice. I mean, I know he's a name and he's got stats, so maybe some people will lean against that. But I feel like there might be some kind of like anti-transfer bias. I don't even know if Charles Cypress will get as much juice as you think. Do you think the media might look at transfers in that vein that are, I don't want to say like on the edges, on the periphery, but like not those slam dunk for sure guys that we know were amazing at their previous institution? Like that'll be kind of maybe penalized and held against them in the voting?
Yeah, look, I think that other than Cypress, because he's an ACC transfer, right?
Yeah.
All these other guys are unknown commodities. Like, again, I just don't know how dialed in reporters are to the portal rankings.
Yeah.
And, Jeremiah Byers was one of the top portal guys in the class. Fisk, Daryl Jackson. I mean, Daryl Jackson was from Miami, but number one, still waiting on that waiver, baby. But also, he didn't have huge numbers at Miami. He wasn't a star there. He was a good player and a rotation player, but he wasn't a star. And then, Bell, Coleman, these are just guys they're not that familiar with. And I just think that I think if Coleman, what's ironic is if Coleman was still at Michigan State, I think he's without a doubt a preseason All Big Ten selection.
Yeah.
And we have to think the Big Ten is a better football conference than the ACC, but because he's just not known and none of these reporters have seen him play, and he hasn't done it at Florida State, that he probably won't get the kind of preseason attention from outlets like this that he probably deserves. But again, like I said earlier, it's the voting in December that counts. This is cool to talk about in July, or you might say it's not cool. Why do y'all keep talking about this? But in it's what matters. December is what matters. That's how we know if you had a good season or not. And I'll also be interested in if Patrick Payton gets any love. But I mean, I know Clemson's got a loaded defensive line again. They got some dudes, so I doubt he's not going to be first team. But I bet he gets some votes. By the way, I did look up Hugh Green and what he did in that game.
Okay.
He only had 19 tackles.
Oh, that's it?
Including 3 for loss.
Okay. All right.
That's it. That's all he did. So, yeah, they slowed him down. He barely made an impact, barely made a dent in that game.
Let's do this together. Somebody posted on the warchant.com tribal council and said that Jaheim Bell is now my favorite Nole. And it was a retweet that he did, apparently of a player from Florida at SEC Media Days. And I have no idea what the kid said. I'm sure there was no profanity or anything, but let's listen to it. Let's play it together here, Corey, and listen to it and see what we feel about it.
Okay.
And I'll talk about Jaheim's retweet. Here we go.
But I can tell you who I'm most excited to play is FSU. I don't like those guys at all, so I'm excited to go get after them for sure.
All right, and the caption was, "I feel the same way, bro." That was a Gator fan tweeting that soundbite. And then Jaheim says, "You ain't got to like it, but you gon' respect it." 100 emoji.
Okay.
It's a good way to ingratiate yourself to the fan base.
I think so. I like that too. A very honest answer from the Florida player, which you would have thought Well, yeah, maybe he didn't like how the game last year ended. Maybe some things were said that he didn't appreciate being in that stadium. But you would have thought Georgia maybe. But hey, he knows they're not beating Georgia. You know what I mean? What are we talking about here? So, maybe they got a fighting chance in the swamp against Florida State, but they're not. He knows they're not beating Georgia, so he says Florida State. But yeah, that's Jaheim Bell. That's welcome. Understand the nature of the rivalry, and the good news about him and Keon Coleman, for that matter, maybe more than the other guys, is that they know what these in-state rivalries are like, man. Like they get it. They understand how important they are, and I do think Jaheim Bell, growing up in Valdosta, really understands the Florida State rivalry probably better than Coleman, who where did he grow up in Louisiana?
Yes.
And then went to Michigan. So he'll get indoctrinated to the Florida State Miami game and then the Florida State Florida game this year.
As advertised, Michael Langston here on the program, Wake Up Warchant. Michael always working for y'all. Check him out on the PRB, the premium recruiting board of warchant.com. Michael, how are you, man?
I'm great. Just getting ready for these late July and August decisions, and then obviously getting ready for the small little open period we have. Got the July 29th Seminole Showcase event coming up. So we'll have that. But outside of that, just getting ready for the season and just, kind of finishing off the summer.
Michael Langston stays busy, everybody. You know that. Hey, man, defensive tackles, elite guys, maybe in low supply, high demand, though, from Florida State fans. You mentioned him on a live chat a few weeks ago, but Armando Blunt out of Miami Central.
Right.
He fits the bill. You have a write-up on him over on warchant.com. I know he's a 2025 guy. We're not patient, but maybe we need to be a little bit patient and hope this one pays off. What do you take away from Armando swinging by campus here soon, or rather swinging by campus here not too long ago?
Yeah, he swung by campus not too long ago. He's also coming back on July 29th for their Seminole Showcase event. He's going to be there for that weekend. I don't know how long. I sense it's going to be a multiple day. I had a fun interview with his mom and Armando, and I think FSU sits in a really good spot with that one. I think when he visited the first time, I think they told him stuff that no other school has told him, both good and bad, that stuff maybe he could do better and be better at. But just the connection with both Odell and then also Norvell really connected with the Blunt family. Certainly his mom, she clearly, in my opinion, favors FSU, and I think he does as well. So certainly you have to get the mom on board, and I think they've accomplished that feat first off, and I think they sit pretty good for that 5-star defensive tackle for 2025.
6'3.5", 250 pounds right now he's listed as. It's a podcast, so you can't see the video, but if you're bored, check out his huddle footage. It's pretty solid. Does it feel like it's going to be a complete in-state battle? If you look at the RPM, the recruiting prediction machine over on On3, it seems to be the big three schools in the state are involved. Do you think it's going to be kind of a battle throughout with these schools, or do you see him maybe wanting to dip his toes into the SEC programs, maybe out of state?
Well, for now, I think it's the in-state programs. I think he's talked about, maybe visiting Ohio State when I talked with him, but he said that's probably not happening, at least not right now. But I would say the in-state programs, especially FSU, they've done a really good job. I think Florida would be also in there as well, but I think Florida State has done the best job clearly, and getting him in for this event for the Seminole Showcase is a big deal. Anytime you can get him for one of your showcase events and you're already sitting in a good spot, I think it gives you a lot of momentum going into that recruitment. So right now I'd say in-state.
The other day, Zion Grady out of Charles Henderson High School outside of Troy, Alabama, released a top 10, Michael, 10 teams. But hey, you can't win unless you're in the sweepstakes. So Florida State found themselves as one of the 10 teams that Zion Grady, a 6'4", 210 edge rusher, is interested in. How I don't want you to tell us where they fall within that 10-team sort of pecking order he has, but obviously that's a position of need. They've developed that position. Alabama, Auburn, these are the teams that are also in the mix. What have you heard initially from Zion Grady, maybe in terms of Florida saying their interest level in him?
Yeah, I think he's highly interested in FSU. I'd say FSU, Texas, Georgia. Those are the teams I hear the most with Zion. I think I think he was another that I think it's important to get him to these showcases. He was actually at the June showcase where you did the video and we had the elite camp and he was there. He certainly worked out, did really well. And I think when you're working out personally with coaches, I mean that tells you how genuine I think the interest is. And I think this is like his second or third visit to FSU, so I think he's very high on them. I think there's a lot of schools involved, but those are the ones that I hear with Alabama, Georgia, and then Texas. There's some other teams, but those are the ones that I hear the most frequent. But I think FSU very much stands a good shot. I think he likes what they do with development. I think he's noticed what their ends have been doing, both the young cats they have and then the older guys they have as far as the production and what they're getting out of that position. So I think he's taken notes of that, and I always say that they keep visiting. That's a good sign, and certainly he's been a regular visitor to FSU. Because Alabama's not right down the road all the time for a lot of these kids. So for him to be on campus as much as he has already, and then he's coming back, I think later. It might squeeze in one this summer. I think that's a big deal for FSU.
We would always talk about, the positions that they had already committed, who they want to go with in terms of needs. And it seemed like Florida State would not relent when it came to going after wide receivers. It was just like one receiver after the other, after the other. I mean, right now, as we sit here and talk, Camden Fryer, BJ Gibson, Loane McCoy, Elijah Moore. These are the players that are committed to Florida State for 2024 at wide receiver. I know Tawaski Abrams at one time was a commitment, flipped to Florida here not too long ago. Does that open up a spot at wide receiver, do you think, Michael? Or is that just maybe another spot that will just be open for another position right now?
I think really they wanted 4 going into this class, and so they already have 4. I think it doesn't really change their, how effective or how much they go after guys. They're still going to go after the Cam Colemans. They're still going to go after the top tier guys like JoJo Trader. That's going to be a guy that's going to be a recruitment throughout the year. So I think, and Jeremiah Smith, another one. I think if it's an elite guy, they're gonna find room. Now it will make it where they probably don't just take a guy just to take another guy. I mean, I think it has to be an elite in their mind, but I don't think it really changes that they need to fit. They need to fill that spot because Tawaski Abrams left, and that situation was just look. I mean, I think he sees what the wide receiver room is looking like, and let's face it. I mean, chances of playing early is not always going to be attractive with FSU. What they're building in that room. So some guys feel like they can do that and play somewhere else better, and I think that's led into the decision with Abrams. But I don't think they're just going to take a guy just to fill a slot. I think if an elite guy comes in their mind, jumps in there where they feel like, hey, coach, I'm coming, I think they would take him. I think 5, 6 is kind of where they draw the line. I don't think they want to take more than 2 more, but I could see them taking definitely 1 more, but I don't think it's just going to be to fill that spot.
Warchant.com is going to be racking up the miles. We'll be driving up to Charlotte. Michael, you got some stuff going on later this week, though, down in Florida, Southwest Florida. The Charles Lessor commitment is nearing its conclusion here. It's apex. Yep. The thrilling finish that we all hope will result in him coming to Florida State. Is this something, it's always tough to say how these are going to shake out ultimately. You can tell us where you feel and how you feel right now about Florida State. Does this feel like it's going to be a kind of relatively smooth week, you think, here as we go into his commitment, or could something, are you anticipating just absolute madness and chaos all the way up until the moment he says where he's going to go to school?
Be honest, Aslan, I always expect a mass and chaos. To be honest, I mean, it could go smooth or it could be a little bit interesting where, he's indicated he might take another visit. There's indications that, it could go to Colorado for a visit right before he announces on the 28th. I'm not sold that he's going to go anywhere as far as a visit, but yeah, I mean, and I told people this from the start. When other people were saying like Alabama and Georgia are a threat, I told people like, look, Colorado is the threat because it connects for what he is. He's from a single parent family. He's a guy that Dion does really good with defensive backs. So, yeah, it's going to be a threat there until he says those words at Florida State that everyone's hoping for from Nole Nation. I think there's going to be some concern until it gets to that. Do I feel like it's going to be FSU? Yeah, I still feel it's going to be FSU, but it's something that we're monitoring in case he does do that, and just any twists and turns, because you just never know. I ultimately expect surprises, so this isn't really catching me off guard or surprising FSU. I think FSU is on top of this, whether he takes a visit or not. I think they're on it, and I think they're still, the confidence hasn't waned as far as how they feel, but obviously there's concern about Colorado. Always has been. That's not a new development. I'm just mentioning that, but so people will understand, like, there's always been that concern with what Dion does. But until he says it, there's going to be an uneasy feeling until he actually makes a commitment. But as of right now, how I'm feeling, yeah, I feel like it's going to be FSU.
Let's keep our fingers crossed.
Yep.
Please stop, Dion. Leave us alone. Stop bullying. Kidding, everybody. He's Colorado will be all right. Nevertheless. All right. One last thing, Michael, before we let you go. We know there's some dates coming up in August, but let's focus on July 28th. Obviously, Charles Lesser, but also Kai Bates. This is a name that I'm not all that familiar with, and maybe you can help, educate some of us that might not be completely dialed into recruiting. A 2024 defensive back, cornerback, he's listed as in the On3 database, 6'1.5", 175 out of Edgewater. Solid program. The RPM recruiting prediction machine's got Florida State, LSU, Bama, Tennessee in the mix, maybe a slight lead. They've got LSU.
Right.
Where did this recruitment come about, and where do things stand right now, do you think, with Florida State and Kai Bates?
Yeah, they've been on him for a while. I mean, this is one David Johnson's the area recruiter, so they've been on him. He's visited multiple times, including taking an official visit. I think FSU actually got the last official visit. I think LSU. I mean, I'm going to state the obvious: FSU, LSU, and Alabama. But I hear more about FSU and LSU with that recruitment. It's kind of, there hasn't been a set leader for sure. I've heard some people tell me LSU, and then I've heard some people say, yeah, I don't know. He's really quiet. He keeps it to himself. So that's one I'll certainly be monitoring in July as well. But certainly a guy that FSU feels like they did really good work as far as coming out of that official visit. So they feel like there's a good shot, not a solid like slam dunk type of shot, but I feel like they have a good shot. So, and I think LSU people, the intel there tells me the same thing. They feel like they have a good shot, but I don't think either side, or even the Alabama side, is telling me like, hey, he's leaning one way or the other.
If Kai Bates and Charles Lesser commit place that are not Florida State, I'll go ahead and grant you like a 3-day mini vacation, Michael.
Okay.
Or let's just log off and to go on the PRB. It's crazy. I'm looking at his bio, Kai Bates, and on On3 they show you, the breakdown of all the schools and the distance from where the kid is, and the positions that they've coached up, and the amount of guys they've put in the draft that position. LSU's had 6 cornerbacks drafted in the last 5 years. Alabama's had 3. Florida State's had 1. So
yep.
Let's maybe take a little bit easy on Coach Surtain if this thing doesn't work out.
Yeah. Yeah, and they weren't even really too much in the picture until Surtain was hired. So he's done an unbelievable job of that, really, getting the kid on the official visit, really doing a lot of work behind the scenes, both with David Johnson and him. So they've done a great job putting him in position to have a good shot. And when I say good shot, that's actually a great improvement to what they were. Yeah, he's from Orlando, plays at Edgewater High School, but also those other schools were schools that he was visiting. And as soon as Surtain came in there, bam, he started visiting FSU. So certainly they made their move. We'll see if they can pull it off. But this isn't a situation like the J.O.S. Solomon kid and Charles Lesser, where they've been on him and they've been the leader for the most of the time. This is a guy that they had to move their way up. So keep that in mind when it comes to these decisions.
All right, Michael, we appreciate the time as always, man. You can check out all Michael's work over at the PRB, the Premium Recruiting Board. So thanks, Michael.
You got it, buddy.
MyBookie.ag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere, and use the promo code WARCHANT when you go and sign up, which if you haven't done so already, we've only been doing this for like 2 years, asking you politely. So go over there, sign up, use the promo code WARCHANT. If you want to bet. If you don't want to bet, it's fine. But if you're going to bet, go to MyBookie. Heisman Trophy odds. Jaden Daniels plus 1025, Quinn Ewers plus 1125, then Jordan Travis plus 1275. Caleb Williams, that's just not a good bet, I don't think, Corey, right? You're the historian. No one's done back-to-back since with the guy from Ohio State. Yeah. So value possibly. Could a wide receiver in this day and age, I don't even know who the starting quarterback for Ohio State's going to be, but Marvin Harrison Jr. plus 2,300. Carson Beck, I guess presumptive Georgia starting quarterback, plus 1,775. Any other names that you can think of on top of your head that you want me to see if they're here on the list? Alabama's quarterback, Jalen Milroe, who's battling out with the transfer from Notre Dame, Buckner. He's plus 4,900. So there is that. Do you like Carson Beck at 1,775 or Marvin Harrison Jr. at 2,300?
I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is an interesting choice there because, number one, he's got the name factor. Not only did people know his name because he's awesome, they know his name because of his dad. So he's already kind of a household football name. The fact that they are breaking in a new quarterback means I think this kid's going to throw it to him more than even C.J. Stroud would, because this kid is going to default to, let me just throw it up to the best player. And he's going to have he's going to have big games and big moments. And I think Ohio State's going to be good. I think to win the Heisman as a wide receiver, it doesn't happen much at all. You have to be on a very good team, and Ohio State will be very good. And I think as long as he's healthy, he's going to put up huge numbers. And in their big games, he's going to make plays. So I think that's not a bad bet. Like, Caleb Williams is obviously the odds-on favorite. But if you're going non-quarterback, that's a pretty good value bet, right? Best player on one of the best teams in the country who's already a household name.
Yeah, there you go. Think about it, everybody. There's a laundry list of guys to look at and pick. So check out mybookie.ag. Use that promo code WARCHANT. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere over at mybookie.ag. How was Marco Island, Corey?
It was great. Also, Ricky Jackson, another Hall of Famer in that game, had 14 tackles. And Sal Sunseri, former Florida State, he's got a championship ring with the Noles for being on the 13 staff. He had 8 tackles, including 1 for loss. Hugh Green, man, must have been a flipping animal.
How many plays did they get off? I thought they didn't get a lot of plays off back in the day. And
I was going to say, if you're by the pile when the whistle's blown, they gave you a tackle, I guess. I'm going to look up total plays. Florida State had 76. Pitt had 57. That's a good way to win a game. Run 20 more plays than the team that has Dan Marino on it. Yeah. So, Marco Island was good, man. But nobody cared. Everybody had listened to this knows Marco Island. It was pretty. It was very, very hot. Stephanie was down there for a work conference, so I met her after the just week-long, just soul-sucking experience in Hoover. And the thing is Brady's team played well, and Brady played well. They did really well. Like, they finished – They advanced around a bracket play, which to even get to bracket play and something like that was pretty unique. They won their pool, which really wasn't supposed to happen. They beat a nationally ranked team. Brady had played well in that game, and then they won a game on the whatever it was, Tuesday, and then they ran into a buzzsaw from I think Pinellas Park, maybe.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
And ran into a buzzsaw, lost that game. But still, man, they finished like 22nd out of 180 teams. All right. Brady did really well. He got on base 9 times and 13 at bats. We're happy with everything. But it's one game a day, and then you've got 22 hours in Hoover. So it was a lot of sitting in my hotel room reading the Oppenheimer book. And so I did that a lot. And then drove. So after that, I drove him back to Atlanta and then immediately went down to Marco Island. Got there at 4 a.m. and hung out there with Stephanie and her friends for a couple of days. And then this weekend, going to Dallas for a wedding.
Ah, a pillar. So, yeah. A pillar as well.
A pillar is getting married, and Warchant will be represented.
All right. I said my best to our guy. Love you, Shane.
How about But the real question is Ireland, man. Are you back? Are you back on the ground? Are you back? Have you normalized your sleep habits and everything now that you're back?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I guess on the way back, you kind of make up for whatever you've lost, so there really isn't jet lag. And we didn't really even have an opportunity to get jet lagged on the way there because as soon as we touched down, we went right to it. So yeah, I feel really good, man. And I've got more footage than Coppola shot of Apocalypse Now. to edit through because whatever you folks have seen is only like the tip of the iceberg of what we were able to do out there. So hopefully you'll see something that you like that might help you in your arguments with your significant other to go out there, because it was really cool. I mean, it was my first time out there in Europe. The weather was absolutely perfect, especially when you compare it to what we walked back into. Man, I remember when the door opened at Orlando Airport, Ira and I both just like looked at each other and like winced. It was like, oof, we're back in this. But
a whole different ball game.
Yeah, man, you and Stephanie are going to love it. The flight might not be to your liking, but once you guys arrive, I think you'll thoroughly enjoy it, man.
Well, that sucks because normally I love flying, so I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that I might not enjoy the flight.
Did you get
What
your passport
could have happened
yet?
on the flight that you thought I would like it?
Nothing. I mean, maybe you just you can listen to your podcasts in peace and kind of doze off and find. Well,
that's what I'm hoping.
Serenity.
That's what I'm hoping I'll be able to do. But so I saw the U and Jet. So for the people that are, there's a lot of people listening to this that are planning on going. The temperature, you would say, did it ever get above 70?
No, it didn't get above. No, it didn't. It didn't get into the 70s. I think 68 was the warmest it got.
Yeah, I think that's something that people need to know, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of people are going to be packing. You need to know what to pack. I'm thinking long sleeves, like sweaters. I guess it gets cold at night.
Yeah, I mean, I brought a couple blazers because we went to these fancy private dinners with important people. But you can get away with a pullover. Just wear a long sleeve shirt and a pullover. If it gets a little too warm, take the pullover off. Layers. It's all about the layers, kids, when you're out there. So they got a horse track, Corey, really nice horse track, gigantic oval, like over 2 miles. It's like 2 Kentucky Derbies. It quite literally dwarfs Churchill Downs, because Churchill Downs is the first track I'd ever been to when I went with you for the Louisville game.
Right.
So they got that. You can bet on the ponies. They've got these breathtaking cliffs and the Irish Sea, and these craftsmen in Waterford, Waterford Crystal. We actually got to create like these Irish whiskey drinking glasses and things. So there's so much to do, man. It was incredible. Jeff's awesome. Ira's great. I don't think I got on anybody's nerves. You might have to ask them on headlines.
Don't lie.
The golfing was amazing. As you guys are watching the British Open, or the Open as they call it, like we got to play a legitimate links golf course, and we got maybe 5 minutes of spraying mist coming off the sea. Like, so there was a little bit of rain, a little bit of precipitation, which added to it. But it was amazing, man. You get into that thick stuff, and you really get an appreciation for what they have to deal with when they're playing out there in Britain and Scotland and Ireland. So, but that was the highlight. Really going to House of Waterford was awesome. Like when we got to go to Waterford Crystal, where they make the trophy for this game that Mike Norvell's going to win. Just like to see them actually, because they talk about blowing glass. I've heard of like blowing glass because I used to smoke the devil's lettuce, and I know how that stuff works. But I didn't know that was like they literally blew glass. But yeah, like they have glass attached to these long tubes. They just blow into it real quick. It expands it, then they put it back into the flame, and then they mold it, and it's quite a sight to behold. And they also gave us like $100 crystal football paperweight. It looks like the old coach's trophy. That was on top of the crystal footballs that we used to do. So you won't regret it. Go, everybody. And we'll probably have some sort of meet and greet. That'll be epic. And Ira's going to be drinking Guinness now, Corey. He likes Guinness.
No, he
Jeff
doesn't.
got him to convert. Yeah. Ask him.
All right.
Ask him
Okay.
on
Hey,
headlines.
man, I'm proud. I'm happy for him. They have vodka over there, right? Probably.
Yeah, they got vodka. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, then I don't have to. Here's what I meant to ask you to do, and I totally forgot. Did you see in your travels anywhere any shop you could walk into and get a box fan? Do you think they even have box fans in Ireland?
Oh, yeah. Funny, some of the hotels out there don't have central heating and air.
Yeah.
Because it's not needed. And the hotel we stayed at in Waterford actually had an oscillating fan on the dresser for you to use. I know it's not a box fan,
right.
But if you went to Dooley's Hotel in Waterford, you could plug that fan right into your nightstand and have it pointed right at you. But they've got big box shops.
I don't think they're going to have a shop that has a box fan, because when was the last time anybody in Ireland went and asked for a box fan?
Well, they have summers out there, and some people don't have central heating and air, so they want a fan. You'll find one.
Okay, all right, good. Okay, that makes me feel better, man, because I was thinking about, am I going to have to check a box fan? Am I going to have to watch a box fan come out on that conveyor belt and roll around and pick it up? Because Daddy can't sleep in a hotel without a box fan.
And dating apps, if you guys are wondering, they're there.
Okay.
There's attractive women there.
Okay.
But man, I was legitimately, we had no time. I mean, legitimately had no time. From the moment we woke up, like our day started pretty much every single day at 9 o'clock, and it was scheduled to the minute till about 10 o'clock at night. And then I'd come back, edit the video, stand up, or I would do the podcast with you or with Jeff and Ira. And then it was 1 in the morning after I was done doing all that and had to wake up and do it all over again. And I'm just like, I'm just going to go to sleep like an old man. So no fun dead dog stories this time around, guys, on a work trip. I've let you down. We'll try to do better in Charlotte. And then are you going to go to Jacksonville with me in August when they do camp? If they do camp in Jacksonville for a few days, mini camp?
Yeah, I feel like Ira doesn't need to do – like I'll do that one since Ira's doing media days. I can go over – well, Ira's probably going to want to do both. But yeah, I'll definitely go to Jacksonville.
Okay. Shout out to all the folks that missed the show. There was a thread where people talked about how much they realize warchant.com is part of their lives because there weren't Jeff Cameron shows every day. There weren't Wake Up Warchants every single day. And they told me to hurry up and get back to America to create content. So we're here, and it was really cool to hear and see all the comments about people missing the show. So
yeah, that's in fact I met a couple of people down in Marco Island that were fans of the show. And one said that he told Stephanie that every morning he wakes up with me whispering sweet nothings in his ear.
Oh, nice.
So that was nice. But yeah, we do appreciate it. We're back. I think we're back for the long haul. I think Aslan starting this week or next week, it'll probably be probably next week we'll get to the 4 to 5 shows a week routine.
Yeah, we'll probably have a show tomorrow, maybe not with you and I, but Tom and Jeff and Ira and myself and Matt Lasser will be up in Charlotte, so I'll steal 2 of those guys and we can maybe talk a little bit about what's going on. And then we might do a show that's just interviews with players you guys don't care about, but I'll try to make it fun. We'll ask them what their favorite movie is and things like that.
I didn't do a real good job of selling that about 30 minutes ago, did I? But
it went good though, because when we used to go, Corey, you and I, we would get those interviews with players that necessarily we got the tight end from Boston College. And
I think what bothers me about it is not the content itself. I'm sure it will be very interesting. It's that that kid doesn't want to be there.
Right.
It's like he's being made to sit in front of these 2 yahoos from Tallahassee, Florida that don't know who he is. Yeah. And then we're there talking to someone who we don't know. And it's just a weird it's a weird he didn't ask to be there and we didn't ask for him. But here you go, guys. 9 minutes. It's like speed dating. 9 minutes, see if you like each other.
I'll crush it. So, yeah, we'll have maybe a show that's just some interviews of players from other schools, other programs, and we'll try to make it fun and interesting. Might not be specifically Florida State-centric, but it'll be content. It'll keep you occupied on your days. So I'll be on the lookout for that. And then, in a week's time, I assume we're anticipating that we'll be covering a college football team practicing football. So
can you believe it? We made it, folks. We haven't made it. I don't want to jinx it yet, but we're about what would you say, 10 days out probably?
Yeah.
From the start of practice, 10 or 11 days, less than 2 weeks until practice starts. And again, I want to remind you all, we get to watch practice. So it's pretty flippin' awesome. Not only do we get to watch practice, we get to kind of tell you what we see. So get ready for a fun August, everyone.
All right, that's a wrap for the show. Thanks to Corey and myself. I'll thank myself. That was weird. But that is a wrap for the show.
You earned it.
There we go. On behalf of everybody at warchant.com, thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Have a great one, everybody.